If you thought last NFL offseason was absolutely insane, well, it doesn't hold a hair to this NFL offseason. Yes, I know last NFL offseason we saw Tom Brady move, we saw Phillip Rivers leave the San Diego Chargers, the LA Chargers, to go all the way to the Indianapolis Colts just for a year. We never thought that we'd see a former number one overall pick in Jameis Winston sign with the Saints, Teddy Bridgewater signing with the Carolina Panthers, and Marcus Mariota signing with the Las Vegas Raiders. But this NFL offseason has been absolutely absurd because typically from the time that the Super Bowl has ended all the way till the beginning of NFL free agency, well, we would expect a little bit of a lull, a little bit of a dead period. Teams really getting together to try to configure their plans for the future. Who are they going to draft during the NFL draft? Which free agents are they going to go after? Nevertheless, we didn't see any of that. As a matter of fact, even before the Super Bowl was played, we saw the number one overall pick in the 2009 NFL draft, Matthew Stafford, get traded for the number one overall pick in the 2016 NFL draft and a couple of first round picks, Jared Goff. What's even crazier is a couple weeks later, we saw the number two overall pick in that very same draft, Carson Wentz, get traded to the Indianapolis Colts for some Cocoa Puffs, literally for absolutely nothing, for chump change, a conditional second round pick and a third round pick. And this is before we get to the fact that there are still so many quarterbacks available. Sam Darnold could be had. Deshaun Watson is going to hold out if the Houston Texans don't trade him. Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback for the 49ers, but at the same time, the 49ers are looking to upgrade the position. Lord knows what's going to happen to Dak Prescott, and out of the blue, out of absolutely nowhere, Russell Wilson is unhappy as a member of the Seattle Seahawks. And now that JJ Watt signed there, he's even more unhappy with the Seattle Seahawks and the lack of offensive line protection he has. But man, this is before we even bring up the NFL draft, which the number one overall pick belongs to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is essentially going to be them ceremoniously making Trevor Lawrence their quarterback of the future, which leaves what are the Jets going to do with the number two overall pick? There's a lot of ways they could go with that pick, and well, it appears as though the direction that they're going to be taking with that pick is starting to become a little bit more clear. Before we get to the content, I just wanted to let you guys know we're giving away a PlayStation 5 to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel. Whether you're an old subscriber or a new subscriber, if you sub and hit that notification bell, you've entered for a chance to win a PS5. Also, a huge shout out to Jason Minix JM and Jake W for joining and rejoining as Mike Mafia soldiers in our membership tier. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, the New York Jets have one of the biggest decisions to make this entire offseason, and it's very underrated how big of a decision that is. You see, a few years ago, very much like Carson Wentz, the New York Jets gave up significant draft capital just to move up a couple of spots so they could draft Sam Darnold. It was literally just 3 years ago. The New York Jets had the number 6 overall pick, and they traded that number 6 overall pick, 2 second-round picks, as well as a 2019 second-round pick, which makes for 3 second-round picks and 1 first-round pick in total to move up 3 spots just to select Sam Darnold. And well, 3 years later, it seems like Sam Darnold may be on his way out, which, first of all, can we discuss something? If you are not 100% sure on your ability to really set that quarterback up for success, please stop giving significant draft capital to take quarterbacks like Sam Darnold, Mitchell Trubisky, and Carson Wentz, unless if you're 100% sure on them. And if you're not, you should be fired as the general manager. And for the Jets, that general manager did get fired. However, in the case of the Philadelphia Eagles, and of course in the case of the Chicago Bears, those general managers are still in place. But I digress, because the reason I'm discussing this is the New York Jets have a huge decision to make. Yes, they fumbled the opportunity to draft Trevor Lawrence, but the decision here is very clear. They have the number 2 overall pick. Do they try to trade back from that number 2 overall spot, which, by the way, there's a very good chance that they do, because there's so many QB hungry teams that I've seen mock drafts that had 4 quarterbacks go in the top 8. Literally, there's mock drafts with Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, and Zach Wilson, not in that order in particular, all gone within the top 8. And well, it appears as though the New York Jets are starting to show their hands a little bit, because according to Ian Rappaport, the Jets general manager, Joe Douglas, came out and told reporters that he'll answer calls pertaining to potentially trading quarterback Sam Darnold. Although there is no firm decision on which way it'll go, he also said that he's had productive talks with agent Eric Burkhart on safety Marcus May, which is a huge franchise tag candidate for them. Now look, the New York Jets decision boils down to one thing. It's whether or not they want to give Sam Darnold a chance to succeed with this new head coaching regimen that features the likes of Bob Saleh, Mike LaFleur, which is Matt LaFleur's brother. It's a pretty nice coaching staff if you want to delve into it. They got Jeff Ulbrich at the defensive coordinator position. Hell, they even have Miles Austin as a wide receiver coach. Shout outs to him. If you're a Cowboys fan, you know who that guy is. But the number one decision that they have to make is, do they take their quarterback of the future with the number 2 overall pick? Do they decide to draft Penei Sewell, which is a transcendent offensive tackle prospect, but still plays the same position as Mekhi Becton, which could cause some trouble between last year's first round pick and this year's first round pick? Or do you run it back with Sam Darnold and play out the final year of his rookie contract? And if it doesn't work out, you find yourself in yet the same position once again next year, possibly within the top 10 of the NFL draft, seeking a brand new quarterback. Now, what I would do and what general managers in NFL history and human nature would do are two completely separate things. I've said this in many videos that whenever a new head coaching staff comes in and the quarterback is very so-so or shoddy at best, that coaching staff is going to look for any excuse to move past that quarterback prospect, especially if they feel like they have a good opportunity to get their guy. Now, the thing is, the Jets also have a later first round pick this year. They have the number 23 overall pick this year. And if you ask me, I feel like they're in a very nice situation to potentially play the quarterback lottery. You see, if they were in a situation where they could trade back from the number 2 overall spot to a team that is desperately QB hungry, I'm looking at you, Carolina Panthers. You're kind of looking a little sketch over there and a little suspicious with how hard you're trying to move past Teddy Bridgewater. If they're able to capitalize upon that, they could potentially set themselves up for the next couple of years based off of the draft haul that they would get. I've seen many analysts say that they could potentially get a trade haul that is very similar to what the number 1 overall pick would typically be because of the amount of quarterback prospects there are in this year's NFL draft at the number 2 overall pick. Then you could run out the final year of Sam Darnold's contract and either he is your guy or he is not your guy. And next year you could come back and take a quarterback but have significantly more draft capital in addition to that, which should catalyze the building of your team significantly sooner. At the end of the day, you would get a second round pick in return for Sam Darnold, which in my opinion is nice, but it's not nearly as nice as selling on the hype of some of the quarterbacks at the top of this NFL draft. And with a couple of more first round draft picks, the New York Jets have an opportunity to potentially build a powerhouse over there in New York, which is why I would hope that they would hold on to Sam Darnold, even though he may not develop into a stud quarterback. The risk is definitely worth taking the chance on him because at the very worst case, you're back at the NFL draft next year and you could take the quarterback that you so desperately crave. At the same time, maybe they're able to play the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes as well. Only time will tell, so let me know in the comment section down below. What would you do if you're the New York Jets? Would you trade Sam Darnold? Would you trade the number 2 overall pick? Or would you keep the number 2 overall pick in Sam Darnold and maybe draft him some offensive line help? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.